like? So Elon, what do you want to do? I want to go to Mars. How much will it cost? $1 trillion. Is it safe? No, people will probably die. What's the return on the investment? Nothing. That's a 5-minute meeting and it doesn't happen.
That's one of the smartest people alive, calling Mars a terrible bet. So, should we colonize Mars? 6 brilliant minds, and they can't agree. Start with the believer.
It really leaves us with one option if we want to become a multi-planet civilization, and that's Mars. We could conceivably go to our moon, and I certainly have nothing against going to the moon, but I think it's challenging to create become multi-planetary on the moon because it's much smaller than a planet. It doesn't have any atmosphere. It's not as resource-rich as Mars. It's got a 28-day day, whereas the Mars day is 24.5 hours. And in general, Mars is far better suited to ultimately scale up to be a self-sustaining civilization.
It's easy to hear that as one man's obsession. But the aerospace engineer who quite literally wrote the book on reaching Mars says the reason to go is bigger than survival. It's the oldest question we've ever asked.
If this theory is correct, then life should have appeared on Mars. And if we go to Mars and start doing some serious fossil hunting, we should be able to find some of these fossilized life forms on the surface. And in fact, if we go to Mars and set up drilling rigs and get down to the Martian groundwater, because there is liquid water underground on Mars, which is an environment in which microbial life can survive, we reach that groundwater, we might find survivors of ancient Martian life living there, just as there are survivors of the most ancient life on Earth living in groundwater on Earth, okay, who can no longer survive the surface because of oxygen. We and our friends, the plants, have polluted the Earth's atmosphere with oxygen. But they're still there, they might still be there. We could find them, and if we find them, we'll have proven not just that there's life on Mars, but that life is a general phenomenon in the universe, because there's thousands of planets, we know that now, and they all have, every star has a good distance where you have a habitable zone around it. If life originates everywhere, or if life is a high probability event, it's everywhere. And since the history of life on Earth is one of development from simple forms to more complex forms, manifesting greater capacities for activity, intelligence, and ever more rapid evolution, if life can evolve in this way.
Two believers. But belief doesn't fund a spaceship or survive the surface. Back to our skeptic and how he thinks Mars actually happens.
I'm not for going to Mars.
Okay, wait. I got nothing against Mars. What I'm saying is, here's how we get to Mars. Ready? China leaks a memo. Doesn't even have to be true. They leak a memo that they want to put military bases on Mars.
Right.
Then we're on Mars in 10 months, but NASA doesn't have a spacecraft, but Elon does. Here's my spacecraft to Mars, and we end up paying him to use his spaceship to get to Mars. And that'd be easy for China, because Mars is already red, right? So that'd be an easy sell. That'd be an easy sell. Okay? That's how. So I don't see it happening until governments judge that it's geopolitically in our interest. Otherwise, I don't see it as just an exploration.
But I believe President-elect Trump has some interest in Mars, so you might have another conversation in a couple of months.
At some point, somebody has to pay for it, and just being interested in something is not the same thing as paying for it.
He believes there.
And it isn't only about money. The planet itself is hostile in ways a launch live stream never shows you. Listen to someone who studies what space does to the human body.
There's 2 parts of radiation we have to protect the crew from. One is a solar particle effect, where there's a solar storm and these energetic particles stream out. Fortunately, we know how to protect the crew from that. We put them into a shelter that's shielded by lots of water. And actually, they're very short duration, hours to days at most. They can come out and continue with their journey. That's the one aspect of radiation we know how to protect against. The other, which we really don't have a firm handle on, is galactic, cosmic rays. These are highly energetic particles that come from all over the galaxy towards the solar system and Earth. You can't shield against these. They're so energetic, they rip right through all metals, all plastic, all water, and all cellular material. And as they rip through these materials, little electrons and protons pull off of them, and you end up getting a cascade effect of radiation throughout the materials. And sometimes going through certain materials causes a worse radiation environment for the crew that had gone through other materials. So we try to design the spacecraft out of materials that shield the crew from these, but also do not produce more hazardous particles as a function of being impacted with it. So a lot of people think that radiation will keep NASA from sending people to Mars, and that's not what the current situation is. We have techniques, we've discussed ways of getting there faster. We know that we add these various mitigations up, that we can have a successful Mars mission, a healthy crew, and have them live a very long and productive life after they return to Earth.
Suppose we solve all of it. The cost, the radiation, the distance. There's still a harder question underneath. Should we be spending our future trying to leave Earth at all?
Yeah, so let's start with Musk. Basically, the problem is that Mars is terrible. Mars is just an absolutely awful place. There's so many reasons why Mars is a horrifying place to live, and it can't support long-term, large-scale human life. Yeah, I get into a lot of that in the book, but to give a shorter answer than I give there, the radiation levels are too high, the gravity is too low, there's no air, and the dirt is made of poison. There's no biosphere there. To support human life, you would have to build an entire self-contained biosphere, because Musk, to go back to his plans for a second, he didn't just say he wants 1 million people living on Mars. He said that the colony has to be self-sufficient in case the rockets stop coming. So you can't just have food shipped in from Earth. It has to all be set up there, which, you know, if you want to have a completely independent city on Mars, then yeah, you know, it can't be dependent on rockets from Earth. The problem is that that's not going to happen. Well, one of the problems is that that's not going to happen. It's not going to work for so many reasons. There's all the stuff I just said, right? Here on Earth, we have two main things that protect us from radiation in space, our Earth's magnetic field and our thick atmosphere. Mars has neither of those things. Here on Earth, we have an atmosphere that we can breathe. Mars doesn't have that. Here on Earth, we have a biosphere that grows food. Food literally grows on trees here.
So who's right? Maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe the answer isn't yes or no, but when?
Well, just remember the dinosaurs did not have a space program. No. And that's why they're not here today. How come there are no dinosaurs in this room today? Because they didn't have a space program. We do have a space program, which means that we have an insurance policy. Now, I don't think we should bankrupt the Earth or deplete the Earth to go to Mars. That's too expensive and not practical. But we need a settlement on Mars in case something bad happens to the planet Earth. And that means we have to terraform Mars.
So, should we colonize Mars? A lifeboat for humanity, or a distraction from the only home we've got? The people who study this for a living can't agree, which might mean the honest answer is not yet, but not never. What do you think? Tell me below. And if you want the version where we actually try, and it goes wrong, that one's next.